veteran community, things we've experienced and overcome, such as addictions, PTSD, depression, legal trouble, and we also promote veteran-owned businesses. If you're talking about it, we're talking about it. This is Charlie Mike, the podcast.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Charlie Mike, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Raul, and your co-host, William.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back. It is a great day here in Pearland, Texas, coming to you live from the Pearland Podcast Studio, our very own studio, and things are popping here, man. It's fun.
It is fun. Hey, before we get any further, I want to say happy birthday.
Hey, brother, I appreciate that. Yeah. So at the time of this recording, my birthday is on April 19th. And I had a good day yesterday, man. It was phenomenal. I donated my hair. If you know me, I have long hair, and it was probably about close to 14 inches. Went yesterday. Felt good to say, what can I do to serve others? You know, do good for others on the day of your birth. And it felt great. It was cool.
That's what's up, man. That's commendable. You know, a lot of people on birthdays and things like that think about me.
Yeah.
And it's pretty dope that you flip the script on that.
You know, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I heard someone say that recently, and that's exactly what I wanted to do, is figure out how can I be of service of others. And that's what I love about this podcast and what we're doing here is just, you know, and it's such a great segue. I didn't plan this, I promise, but it was such a great segue because here today we have Mr. Jay Shaw, and your real estate model is at your service. And there's so much that goes into that, especially I think as us as veterans, like how can we continue that mission? How can we serve others? And for me, just making it special on my birthday, like how can I do more for somebody else that may not have what I do have, and trying to really ground myself in gratitude. So let's get into this introduction. So today we have Pearland's own, you know, he's here in Pearland, Mr. Jay Shaw, who's a Marine Corps veteran, and building this real estate empire, which is really cool because I've been able to see your name come across my, whether it be my LinkedIn or even where I used to work at Impact a Hero, I've seen your name come up, and I was like, man, I'm really looking forward to finally meeting him one day. And we walked into his office and said, what's up? How's it going? And so we finally were able to come in because I know you have so many things that going on in the community, and we wanted to be sure to welcome you on to hear your story about how we continue mission. So welcome.
Right on. Thanks, man. I get around people like a bad penny. I just keep turning up here and there. Can't get rid of me.
I see you everywhere. I saw your picture this morning when I went to Kroger's and I was pushing a shopping cart around.
Yeah.
He's got his picture right there on the shopping cart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There was a time I told myself I would never do that. Advertising. I would see these realtors advertising on shopping carts. I'm like, I'm never going to do that. That's so lame.
Hey, and then when we go shopping with my kids now, I'm like, hey, I know him.
I was pushing when I first paid for that ad, and I was in Kroger shopping, and I had the cart, and I was like pushing it around like, are people going to recognize me? Nobody did.
No, not one person.
Oh, man.
So you were in real estate before you joined the military, right?
Well, sort of at the same time.
Oh, wow.
When I was active duty, I got involved with a group of investors, and one was a realtor, one was a mortgage broker in San Diego. So I was on Camp Pendleton, right? And so because I had bought a house in 2001 and it appreciated during that bubble building phase prior to the big, real estate market crash that we all know about, that house was appreciating in value so fast that it was earning appreciated value faster than me and my wife at the time's combined salaries. Of course, I was sergeant in the Marine Corps. My salary wasn't enormous, but she worked in the mortgage industry. And I did the math one day, and the first year we owned it, I think it was going up like several $1,000s a month in value, and it doubled in such a short amount of time. It was shocking, and we got invited to invest some of that equity into apartments.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know the first thing about it. It was a big learning experience. I was basically sitting in these LLC meetings, just sponging up information and getting taught things that I'd never heard before. And then we successfully bought and flipped an apartment building there in San Diego as our first deal as a group, and everybody put in $100,000, bought it for $1 million, sold it for $1.3 million, and so 10 people splitting $300,000 profit. That's $30,000 each. After interest and bank fees, we netted about $27,000. So even though I was like a dumb grunt, it didn't. I was smart enough to go like, hey, that's pretty good return on investment. It took less than a year to make 27 on our 100,000.
Wow.
Then I deployed, and a whole bunch of stuff happened. And sort of fast forward, I ended up getting into the real estate business full force.
Well, interesting.
So backtrack a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing. Where are you from? How, what?
Yeah, Fort Worth, Texas is where I grew up. I was actually born in Pasadena, right down the road.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't live here or claim it because before I was even a year old, we moved to Fort Worth. And when we were up there, I had a great group of people around me. It was like a tribe. There was a church congregation that we were part of, roughly 200 people or so, and everybody trying to do good in life. And one of the things that church would do is buy homes near to kind of revitalize the neighborhood right around the church. They would help congregation members buy and then renovate. And so I grew up renovating houses, like running around being the gopher, go for this, go for that, bringing hammers. And then I got bigger and stronger. I was able to do demo, like blast walls apart. And, and when we weren't doing that, we were doing groundskeeping. And so I grew up working on houses, using tools, and that served me well, both in the Marine Corps and as a real estate investor.
Man, yeah.
So you seem like a pretty smart guy. Why the Marine Corps? I'm just kidding. So what brought you into the Marines? Like, you have all this going on at home, great community. Did you have family that served, or is it just
my grandfathers? They were in the World War II veterans, and they were Army. So I didn't have any Marines in the family. And I actually had a great uncle who also served in the Army in World War II. But I was aware of them and knew about their service, but it wasn't like a huge influence. I wasn't hearing all these war stories and stuff. But my brother and I really liked to play war when we were kids. Sticks and run around in the woods. It was like my favorite game. And I had like a little cartridge belt from the surplus store and a canteen. And but I kind of forgot about the childhood games and got into high school and then a job. And I essentially turned around and I had a job at Home Depot. I was bored. I was like, this is a good job. I have a nice car, like a little hot rod, Shelby Charger. I had an apartment when I was 18. I was dating, and life was pretty good by most people's standards. But I just had this kind of weird burning desire to get out and see the world. I was essentially bored. I was struggling to pay for college, and didn't have the discipline to make good grades when I was, when I could afford college.
18 years old, man.
Yeah, it's like San Antonio Community College. It was like 2 jobs and nighttime college with not enough money and a lot of boredom. And I could just see I could see myself at like 40 years old being like a store district regional manager at Home Depot and probably making a six-figure salary with the wife and kids and all that stuff. I could see this future and I was like, wait a minute, like there's a huge world out there. I want to surf. I want to, experience oceans and mountains and things. And so I had a plan. I had a plan to just work my way across the country, just doing whatever jobs to get whatever money I needed for gas and transportation just to get to California somehow. And then I was going to get a job on the first cruise ship that would hire me, didn't care what I had to do, so that I could just get out on the ocean and start traveling. And right about that time, almost like they were reading my mind, the Marine Corps sent me a postcard in the mail. It is so dumb, but I have to tell this. So the postcard was like, fill this out and send it in for a free Marine Corps coin. It was just like this 10-cent piece of brass with the Marine Corps emblem on it, And I sent that sucker in, and I feel like they called me before it ever even got there.
You put it in the mailbox in the rain.
Yeah. Staff Sergeant Davis, man, he's on the ball. So, as I said, I thought I had a pretty good little life built up. But as most, people in their late teens, early 20s, you know, my apartment was shoddily furnished and beer cans. And he walks in my door and he goes, first words, "Oh, the Marine Corps will fix this." And I was chilling, sitting in my, just like, you know, had my, you know what I mean? Like I had my, like, my guard up, right? Oh, who's this recruiter? He's not going to bullshit me. And he comes in, "The Marine Corps will fix this." I was like, that's not the approach I expected, right? It was kind of like offended me. I was like, what do you mean fix, you know, in my head, I'm like, what do you mean fix this? Right? He just saw this undisciplined civilian, you know, I thought I had my stuff together, you know? So, and he starts showing me his pictures of rappelling. You know, he was a recon Marine. So
wow.
He had all these cool pictures. I was like, yes,
all of it.
I was done, man. Oh, well, the other trick he did, we got to the recruiting station. He goes, "Hey, will you help me grab my stuff out of the trunk?" Sure. So he grabs this little lightweight briefcase, and his rucksack was in the trunk. He's like, "Yeah, would you grab that for me?" And I go, I couldn't budget at first. I had to really like, wow. It was like 165 pounds. You know, never, you know, wasn't like a gym rat or anything. I was like, so I put his ruck on and barely carried it into the recruiting office. So he challenged me twice, and then he showed me these pictures, and I was smoked. I was like, all right, yes, I want to be a recon Marine. I want to go in the infantry. I want to be Marine, period. And at one point I go, "What is this over here? This looks cool. It looks like they're blowing stuff up." He goes, "Yeah, that's EOD. What's that? Explosive Ordnance Disposal. You don't want to do that." "Well, why not?" He's like, "Well, they smoke constantly and their hands shake." I didn't really know what that meant. But I was like, okay, fine. I'll do infantry.
They smoke constantly in my head.
I swear to God. It was a little unorthodox recruiting sales pitch, but it worked. I was like, all right.
That's too funny. It's true.
It is true.
Yeah. Oh man.
Sorry, no offense, EOD guys out there. Love you guys.
No, yeah, we it was a love hate relationship with them. To be honest, we used to love calling them. We used to hate waiting on them.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, roasting in the sun while
Yeah.
they showed up 4 hours later.
4 hours. That's a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
So you're spending your time in the military or in the Marine Corps down in Cali, I assume, right?
Yeah. Camp Pendleton.
And that's when you really got introduced to the real estate. So did your wife and you said you bought a house and then you realized that there was equity in it, and then it's
Yeah.
getting back to your childhood roots again, where it's like working with your hands, putting your hands on the house. Like, how do I make
Yeah.
this place better?
Yeah, we did, you know, lots of home improvement projects on that house, and it was really fun. And then being able to have the Marines come over and throw parties and
Yeah.
shoot pool, and it was really, really fun to have that house. It wasn't anything special. It was 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, less than 1,000 square feet in Escondido, which is like at least 20 minutes from the beach. So it was no mansion by any means. But when we bought it, we had to pay, I think it was $235,000. Our budget was $200,000, and trying to get in San Diego. But the market was appreciating so fast, we couldn't save money fast enough. And this is something I've actually shared with my clients over the years, is it's not always the smartest thing to do to wait and save money. In a trending market like we've seen these last 2 years, you couldn't save money fast enough to keep up with price appreciation. And with interest rates very low like they were, even though prices were going up, it could make sense to buy. And it's like now interest rates are high, or they're not really historically high. They're just more like normal. And prices are coming down a little bit, but we don't have as much inventory as we need. This is getting, I don't mean to get too technical here.
No,
but
no. Yeah, I understand actually.
I think that the
You're in that situation.
Yeah.
yeah. So it's easy for people to sort of just listen to headlines and make a decision on buying or not buying or selling or not selling. But if you, there was an A&M professor when I went to the Entrepreneur Boot Camp for Veterans, which is a great program. And one of my takeaways was a professor said, in business, to make the decision, you must do the calculation. And I've remembered that and used that so many times that you can't just go off of your intuition or your gut feeling sometimes, because numbers tell the story. And for example, one of our preferred lenders was just helping a client the other day decide between different loan programs, because almost everybody can get approved for more than one type of loan. And it's fairly complicated math to figure out over time which program is going to save you the most money. So they were fixated on, oh, we're going to get this big credit up front and this low rate. But then over time, if you looked at this other loan, it actually worked out better. But normal people, we can't do that kind of math, right? It takes somebody who's got a professional calculator. I mean, you could go on the line and you could fiddle around with bankrate.com kind of stuff and get close. But we always say, hey, don't count yourself out. You may get approved even though you think you can't. Oh, you think your credit score is too low, or you think this or that. But there's more to it than that. And it doesn't cost anything to get pre-approved. I just always say, don't listen to the headlines necessarily. Talk to your realtor. Don't count yourself out on the loan. Talk to a loan officer. And then you'll know, if you can't buy a house, what you need to do to get to that point. And then you could set a goal.
Right. I like that, man. That's great advice. Great advice. Now, so how many years did you end up doing in the Marine Corps?
9.
9.
Yeah.
Man. And
Odd number, because the last year was essentially rehab after getting hit in Iraq.
you were in Fallujah, right?
Yeah.
And was this a pre or you're pre or post 9/11?
Well, I enlisted in 97,
Yeah,
pre
I
9/11,
see.
and then re-enlisted in 01 before 9/11, and then 9/11 hit while I was an instructor at SODG, and then I watched my boys that I trained in India Company 3-1 do the push in 2003, invade Iraq, and I'm watching that shit on the news like, holy crap, those are my guys. I hope they're okay. You know, my biggest fear was that they were going to get NBC warfare, Scuds coming in with gas, you know, and we've all trained NBC, and you know how much that sucks. Like,
Yeah.
so that would have been like worst nightmare scenario. But as we all know, they did a great job and pushed up to Baghdad, and then I ended up deploying after the fact in OIF. I don't know, 1.5 or something. I don't know. I get confused all the OIFs.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
All the
man.
versions.
People are like, when are you there? I was like, this time frame. Yeah.
I think it's we hit on this question because we love to ask our guests, where were you when 9/11 happened? Because we like to continue, because that's the big driving force, and it's we say it all the time, like if you're out there listening and you were born this century, you don't remember 9/11
Yeah.
like we do, and so we feel it's important for us to continue to talk about it as much as we can, because that was such a driving force for this part or this big part of our history. So do you remember? And of course, but where were you when 9/11 happened?
Yeah, no, I remember clearly. And so I don't forget, I do want to say that being a squad leader of Marines who joined post 9/11, I still get chills. That was not lost on me, that the boys that were like, hey, I want to go. I didn't join when there was a war on.
Right.
97, the hell, like Westpac's. The biggest threat was if you didn't get to go to Australia. Like, damn, But they're like, yeah, no, I want to go fight. These fuckers blew up our building. Put me in, coach. And I was like, wow, I got to do a really good job for these dudes as a leader. That was like, whew. So big honor to be able to lead that caliber of Marine in that time. But to answer your question, I was in the mountains, Bridgeport, California. Y'all ever been to Bridgeport?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so they call it most miserable man training, because the Marine Corps picked, good old Marine Corps, they picked the location with like the most rugged mountains and the most snowfall that was close to a base, right? So that was Bridgeport. And we would go take our students up there to do rock climbing training. And we had this lower base camp area where the barracks and the chow hall was, but we were up early to go set up the rope systems on the cliff to get ready for the students. So when they would arrive from chow, it would be ready to go, and they would get right into the day of climbing. And we were supposed to just do a long day of just climbing practice that day. And so we'd had these students now for a few weeks. So we had built relationships with them. There were sergeants down to PFCs as our students. And the vans roll up, and they jump out, and one of the guys is like, hey, we got to put the radio on the vans. We saw something on the news in the chow hall. We're like, what? It was really weird. They didn't quite understand it, and we didn't quite understand it, but something was happening. And so they turned on the radios, and they had, in the chow hall, they had seen, I think, the first plane. And then we all heard it together on the radio that there was another one. And that's, it kind of all settled in to all of our minds simultaneously that, like, not only was it, like, it was pretty clear that it was on purpose. Mm-hmm. That's the first realization. Like, whoa, this isn't an accident. It can't be. Even though you're in denial, it can't, if you're, not in total delusion, you're like, this is not an accident. Mm-hmm. And then for me, my next thing was like, we're going to be at war pretty soon. Like, we are basically at war. It's just not announced yet. It's just a matter of time, And our corpsman, Doc Sabio, he had a high emotional intelligence, more than most, Marines, right? So he's like, hey, we need to get the students in the bleachers. And so we got them all kind of in the bleachers, and he just kind of addressed everybody just off the cuff. This guy was so smart. And he ended up going to Secret Service, actually, a really solid dude. But he just addressed the Marines like, hey, guys, like, we just heard this crazy news. How's everybody feeling, And we just had a guided discussion right there. That was pretty heavy,
Wow.
And then the next thing that happens, which was a little silly, the Marine Corps sends a driver up to our location with one M16 and one magazine full of live ammo. Like, I didn't even know they had live ammo on that base. It's a mountain warfare training center, but there's no live fire that happens. So they like broke out the dusty ammo out of the armory, and like brought us this M16. I'm like, are we gonna get attacked out here? I doubt it. Nobody even knows we're here, So.
Oh, that's too funny. So everything changed. Well, that part was funny. Everything changed that day, huh?
Yeah. By the time we got back to Pendleton, there was concertina wire and sandbags all over the place.
Get chills.
Yeah, man, I get chills every time I hear people's story because, it's still surreal. And a lot of people that are joining the military now weren't alive. They don't know what we experienced that day. Like I say, like there's a lot of people, generations before us, you asked them, where were you when the Challenger exploded? Where were you when, I guess, JFK was assassinated?
Yeah.
And, things like that. And they remember exactly where they were. And it's just, I think we've also said it too. Like you remember the week after when everybody was so patriotic, everybody loved the U.S., everybody was waving flags, everybody, I missed that.
Yeah.
I don't want the tragedy to ever happen again, but I missed everyone being American.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Well, it makes total sense. And in fact, it's addressed in the book Tribe, I believe, by Simon Unger. Unger, I don't know how it's pronounced, but
Sebastian.
Sebastian Unger, yeah. He talks about how the British, during the Luftwaffe, the bombings, and all the chaos and destruction, that after the war, that Britons would be kind of heard saying, like, I miss those days because of the unity and the camaraderie. And I think that speaks to sort of big picture. It speaks to the human condition. We perform better as a unit or a tribe when there's like an outside enemy or an other that's like the bad guy.
Yeah, we're not focused on each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're focused on the...
Yeah, and when there's not a strong other outside of our tribe, then we kind of make one. And that's where we start, division and arguments over silly stuff. It's like there's always got to be something wrong, some enemy. And he talks about that a lot in that book. And I think that it's a cool phenomena that you bring up. It's like missing the bad times because it was the good times as far as for your tribe. You were all unified and together. So we don't, like you said, we don't want the tragedy, or we don't want the fight or the destruction, the chaos, but we want to feel that oneness and unity and patriotism, I'd love it for somebody to figure out
How to do it
feel
without-
that without,
Yeah.
war.
Yeah, it definitely. I still think about that, and I remember seeing like sporting events and things like that, and it's just, even till this day when I go to sporting events and I see everybody standing for the national anthem and things like that, man, it brings a tear to my eye, man.
Mm-hmm.
It really does, because I just feel like, we remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, we remember, and you, I, William, we did our time in the sandbox, and we and people ask me about my military service, man, I say it was some of the best and worst times of my life. Do you regret any of it?
No.
No.
So I know your service ended abruptly, to say the least.
That's a way
With
to
a bang.
put it, bro.
Ended with a bang.
It ended with a bang. There you go. And you know what's so interesting about
That's so
we
messed up.
talk about this a lot in the veteran community. We just go dark sometimes, right? Like
Yeah.
with our humor, and so it's nice that I'm sure you're pretty far removed from that time too, but I'm sure in that time it was dark for you. But what's an overall lesson I'm sure you that you can take from this? Like how do you overcome something that you're so fond of, right? And I'm sure you can appreciate what happened now, but when you're in that moment and it's looking dark, like how do you fight back against that?
Wow. So some stuff that just bubbled up while you were forming that question. In the moment when I got hit, I was calm in the sense that, in the knowledge that my guys were well trained and that they would be able to carry on and do a good job without me. I also, right or wrong, I don't know, I kind of self-assessed and felt like I wasn't mortally wounded, but I knew that I was wounded bad enough that like my part in the war was over. And I feel like war can be a very personal thing, and this is actually discussed in a book about Vietnam that the name is escaping me right now, but it's like the personal war. It's like your AO, your specific battlefield, the trench, the house, right, where you or your buddy gets hit. These things are all very like microscopic in the scale of the war, but that's your experience. That's your personal war, and it's very different from the guy even 100 yards away or in the next AO. So I had I was a little older, right? I had been in like 7 years. So I think I just had a level of, I don't know, a viewpoint that allowed me to kind of in the moment be okay. I was like, yep, I'm hit. I'm going home. I'm probably not going to die. I got a great corpsman. We had done a lot of medevacs at that point. I kind of knew the drill. And so it wasn't scary. And I knew my guys could, carry on. The only scary part was they took my helmet off in the street, and then we started getting shot at. And I was like, one of my Marines was like, he was trying to distract me, like, hey, Sergeant, remember like we talked about going climbing when we get back home? We're going to do that. And he's like trying to be supportive or whatever. And I was like, yeah, hey, could you find my helmet? And he goes looking for it. It's like, pop, pop, pop. And he comes back. He was like, oh, Sergeant, I don't know where your helmet is. I was like, find my fucking helmet. I yelled at the top of my lungs. Doc's working on me, and I was like bleeding everywhere. So I was like, find my helmet. That's like one time you want your helmet. You hate wearing that sucker until you're getting shot at. It's like, no, I don't want it.
He tightened it up.
Just in case.
Yeah.
No, I felt okay in that moment, and then going through probably one of the dark moments was my hand didn't work for a long time, and again, as I've mentioned, climber, surfer, whatnot. I wanted, who doesn't want functioning limbs?
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, I'm not going to die, but now I'm in the hospital, and I've got this thing that doesn't function. And I told the orthopedic surgeon, I was like, hey, is this going to work again? Like, shoot me straight, doc, because if it's not going to work again, just tell me now. We can just take it off. I'd just rather have like a hook or something that's useful. And he looked at me like I was crazy. I was dead serious.
He said a hook. That's useful.
Yeah, the guys out there with hooks are probably like, you dumbass. You don't know what you're talking about.
Hey,
Like,
I would have put a can opener.
That was my. I was like, I get this looks better than a prosthetic, but if it's not, my point was, if it's not gonna work, I don't want it. And he was like, you'll be fine. But then the next day, or maybe later that day, the therapist came in and started working with my fingers and doing all this manipulation. And so one of the highlights, of the dark moment of like, man, I might not be able to have the use of my right hand was I was in my house in California. I was on convalescent leave, and I was doing all kinds of physical therapies that I could at home. I was so those workout balls, those inflatable balls, right? Yeah. And those like pink weights, the girly weight, I call them
the little ones.
Yeah. So my wife at the time, she had this Core Secrets video set that came with this ball and these pink weights. And so I was like bouncing on this ball, watching this video at home on convalescent leave, working out with these pink weights. Like if my Marines could see me now, they would fall out laughing because I'm like, yeah. So, but it worked, got my core strength back and started being able to do some actual weightlifting and different things. And but before I got to that point, I was just trying to figure out how to get healthy. And I was sitting in the bathroom on the toilet, and I had been working for weeks to get my fingers working again. And I finally was able to touch my pinky and my thumb together. And I was like, honey. She's like, what? What's wrong? I was like, I did it. I touched the. And she was like, oh, great. That's nice. Dude, I was like stoked. So stoked. But so like I guess the lesson there is like notice the like little points of progress, right? I could have been like, oh, but I can't close my fist, or, it's like, yeah, there's always stuff you can't do. What can you do? Like,
man, no, 100%. We agree with what you're saying, because that's something that we preach a lot too. Sometimes you have to hunt for the good stuff.
Yeah,
hunt the good. Yeah,
yeah. There's always a lot of negativity, negative thoughts. Sometimes you got to be like, but
yeah,
I woke up.
Yeah,
yeah. It could always be worse. Yeah. We're not being shot at. There's as long as you can take some action, then you have a chance, right? Attitude is everything, right? And so I started developing this, like, turning lemons into lemonade kind of mentality, and it actually became sort of a motto. So I was like, okay, yeah, I got hit, but I'm still fun. I can still do a lot of stuff, and I can rehab. And I got real hardcore about the rehab. I was telling the doctors and the therapists, like, okay, what else can I do? How fast can I get better? What surgery? What therapies? And I would see a Marine over in the hospital, like, rolling his foot on a frozen Gatorade bottle. I was like, should I be doing that? They're like, yeah. You want to do that? I'm like, yeah. I wanted to say, like, duh. I've been telling you for 3 sessions now that I want you to throw the book at me. I want every therapy that possibly could help, and I don't want to go slow. But they didn't get in their head at first. I had to keep telling them. And one dude, he was giving me therapy on my arm. I got this big fasciotomy scar, and I kept telling him, like, harder, like, more, like, it's not getting it. And he goes, hold on. And he gets this, like, dude, he was like, here, he gets his buddy. He's like a Puerto Rican guy who was like half his size and weight. But he goes, like, this is who you want. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, trust me. So this dude sits down. I wish I could remember their names now, and he just starts digging into the scar tissue, and and it was painful. And I was like, yes, I could tell this is working.
The pain makes it feel so good.
Fucking Marines.
But it worked, man. So if anybody out there is listening, they're like having a I can't attitude, or a dark moment, or something's wrong, man, if you focus on that, you are just going to get more of that. And I believe that I could have a hand right now today that is maybe like 50% functional, and I could be like, oh yeah, this happened to me, poor me. But it works full force, right? Like occasionally it'll do some weird stuff. So does this one, but whatever, I can't twiddle a pencil like whatever, right? Like, I used to not be able to look at it without getting that anxiety and like weird feelings, just like looking at this gnarly scar on my arm. whatever, like push through, make it as good as I can make it.
Were you always like that?
I don't know.
Was there had to be some darks. I mean, was there a dark point where you were just like,
Stubborn runs in my family. That's true. I can say that for
Yeah.
sure. And then the Marine Corps, I think, augmented stubbornness with other things,
confidence?
Yeah, confidence. Also the knowledge, they put us through our paces, right? We do a lot of physical fitness. We learn, we understand how to learn. We like, lecture, demonstration, prac app. We learn repetition, just repetition. We learn to push through pain, overcome obstacles. Those are so core and basic to the Marine Corps philosophy, and they apply across the board to your whole life. And we shouldn't forget that. And it breaks my heart. I see veterans who just seem to have forgotten what they learned in boot camp or what they learned in the fleet. And again, I think I'm theorizing that one of my resiliency factors was that I was a little older when I went in, 21, and then I was in 7 years. So I had a foundation of Marine Corps-ness that was like in my body for several years. And, so physical fitness is key to everything. I can't do my job now as well as I could do it if I don't do physical fitness, if I don't enjoy time with my son and get out in the sunshine and in nature. I mean, who could just be in an office all day and just think all the time? And some people probably could, but I think that we would all perform better practicing some of those basic military skills and disciplines.
I like the fact that you said, you weren't, you kept looking for the good. You kept, but I did this. Now, we talk about it before that there's some veterans out there that are just okay being broken.
Yeah.
Or, how, I don't know if I'm saying it right. Or,
it's a touchy subject, right? So, but I feel that way sometimes where it's like, what else, right? This happened, you can't be in anymore, but is that all you are? And this runs the gamut from people who are like super severely, I know some of the most severely disabled veterans I know are the most productive, and their attitude outshines any disability they have. And then I know others who may not have been wounded at all, but have kind of a woe is me mindset, and everything sucks. It's not that everything actually sucks. It's just that the mindset makes everything suck.
the attention. I mean, well, a lot of it, I think a lot of them, a lot of them do it for attention. They like the attention as being the broken veteran and figure, okay, well, if I get my shit together, then they probably won't pay much attention to me. I might be wrong, but
No, I hear that a lot too with some of the vets that I've worked with, and you're comfortable with where it is that you're all getting, but the thing is, like, your potential, you're not living up into it. Eventually where you are and what you're doing, your potential exceeds all of that. And we talk about it because we're living it, and it's like we never thought that all of this studio was possible when we first started, but we knew we wanted more, and we just keep doing that. Like before camera, it was like we said, we're in the military, we're constantly improving. We were trained that, you were taught that, and no matter what your MOS is, no matter what your job was, you're always trying to leave where you are just a little bit better. And if you can, we can recapture that mentality again. It makes veterans more prepared for everything that's out there in the world, for entrepreneurship, for building or running up that corporate ladder, whatever it may be. Like, get back to the fundamentals of what made you a veteran.
Absolutely, and it's not. You didn't say this, but money. The subject of money comes up. It's like, okay, well, if you're not driven by that, what about doing something for others? So meaning, right? Meaning and purpose. This has come up over and over again in my conversations with veterans. That having meaning and purpose is key. Tony Robbins talks about it, and he references a book by Viktor Frankl, A Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah.
Which I haven't finished the book, but I've got through. It's a tough read, man.
It is
super heavy. It's his experiences in the concentration camps, right. And man, if you can survive that environment and keep a good attitude, that's miraculous, right? How do you keep a good attitude in that environment? And that's kind of one of the points of the book. And so, something that you kind of an analogy, if I could try this on, fighting holes. We were talking about that off camera. You're always improving your fighting hole, right? And you're making it better, and you're finding ways to entertain yourself. And it's boring, and that's like most Marines hate sitting in the defense, especially in peacetime, because like ain't nobody's gonna come and attack you. Yeah. So you're just making your muddy hole as good as you can make it. Overhead cover, sure. Like I'm gonna get an artillery barrage. We're America, superpower, right? So sitting in the defense was always this boring piece of training, whatever. But take it further and go, okay, let's say you're actually in the defense in an actual combat zone and you get attacked and they blast the hell out of you and you lose guys, but you still got to hold that hilltop. Do you just go, okay, well, we just got attacked and blown up and took damage and whatnot. Okay, let's just sit in our holes and think about what just happened forever until the next. You're going to be a lot less prepared the next time. You're probably going to get overrun and taken out. But no, if you are in that situation, you redistribute, you help the wounded, you fix your cover, you re-sandbag, right? You do anything and everything you can to improve your position, even if you can't. And if you can get off the hill, well, shoot, So in life, we have all kinds of options. A lot more options than you normally do in a combat zone. So why do veterans sometimes just sort of go, yeah, shit sucks. This is, I'm on this like tattered, bombarded hilltop and I don't know what to do. Look around. You're in a target. If you want something to do, it's everywhere. Just look at the first thing you can see in your surroundings. Jordan Peterson talks about, just cleaning your room. And there's that Navy commander, I think, that gave the speech on make your bed.
McCraven.
Yeah.
That's a good speech.
Yeah.
It's an awesome speech, and it's so overlooked to do the little things, but that's where, it starts, the little things that you can do to put yourself on the path of doing something meaningful. And then happiness, I think is not the goal. Happiness is fleeting, but fulfillment through connection, meaning, doing something important. Another Tony Robbins thing, he talks about the 6 human needs. I would recommend everybody kind of look into that because it's pretty spot on. If you're like, why am I not happy? Well, first off, why are you not fulfilled? And that's because one or more of your basic needs aren't being met, and that probably has a lot to do with your attitude.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
I have to adjust my attitude on the daily. I don't wake up like, wow, yes, everything is awesome.
Hey, people think we do because we put out that type of impression on people, and they're like, man, how are you so positive all the time? I'm like,
Yeah. I said it to you the other day. It was on Monday, and I was like, man, I'm just kind of in a funk right now. I don't really know what's going on, but I'm here and I'm going to show up. And it's how do you get out of that? One point I wanted to make with Man's Search for Meaning is he says, you can get through any how with a strong enough why. It's like wherever you're at, how you get through it is fine as long as you have a strong enough why. And in the book, he references like wanting to write this book and get back into his practice, and he's going through the concentration camps and horrible, again, hard book to get through, but the meaning from that it's very powerful.
Yeah, the people who wanted to escape discomfort could do that very easily, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Right, in that environment, you could just give up and starve or die or, stop working and then be executed. So the way out was there all the time. How strong do you have to be to not take that way out? With no end in sight, all the evidence points to you're not going to make it out alive.
Man, that's insane to even think. Yeah,
know,
got
that
me
makes me-
again, man. Yeah, that's insane to even think. I wouldn't. Yeah, you got to be a strong
Strong
individual.
why.
Yeah.
What was it? I don't remember. Like I said, I haven't finished the book, but and he gets into psychology in the book too, not just the story of his experience, but he had obviously a very strong why, and I think it had to do with just survival. He had a strong survival instinct, but like family and just kind of like
Right. He always pictured himself writing this book and getting back to teaching again. And so I don't know if you've read that part yet, but he talks about he was always writing down, or he had a manuscript and stuff that he wanted to teach, and of course he lost it because he was going to the grant. And so he was, how do I continue to write this again? You know, and so he would, anything he could, he would write it on, and that he, again, just knew through those lessons he'd be able to teach others. And man, I now that you mentioned it, I'm going to read it again. But I've had that. I think about it. What is my why, and how do we had a guest on talk about, not so much your whys or your passions, but I think it's very purpose driven. I mean, Simon Sinek, right? Top 5 TED Talks of all time, and it's start with why. Marketing there's just so much that goes into it, and for us, for veterans, I try to talk to them so they can get their why out. Well, it sounds like this, and because sometimes it takes a different perspective. But I wanted to make sure that we hit on the fact that you're very involved with Warrior Benefit, and I'd seen recently, right? You're getting. So why don't you tell us your why for that? Why Warrior Benefit?
Yeah, for sure. So Warrior Benefit is an organization locally based that does a sporting clay tournament every year to raise money to then have a council of Purple Heart veterans and a Gold Star dad, and we meet and we decide where that money is going to go. And so we either personally vet or through, like let's say you had been really helped by an organization that's a 501(c) organization, and you go like, Jay, ABC Veteran Charity over here is awesome. They're doing great work. Oh, really? Well, tell me more. And then maybe you and a representative from them would join us in this annual meeting, and they would tell us what they're doing and how and what impact they're making. And after we put all these organizations on the table, so to speak, we decide who and how much they're going to get, and then we make those grants. So anywhere from $1,500 to up to $30,000 is what we've done in the past. And
That's amazing.
we write the check with $9.11 on the end, just as a little remembrance of 9/11, what we were talking about. Because
You did it again.
sorry. Yeah. I know. I got chills at the Warrior Benefit shoot this year. It was my first year doing the coordinating of the shoot and then speaking from stage during the program. But before we ever go and shoot, we do the national anthem and march the colors. And while the anthem was playing, there was apparently a very moving video that everybody really, watched and was impacted by. But I was up on stage, I couldn't see the video. But just anytime the national anthem plays and I'm looking at the flag, I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
And I didn't mean or plan for this, but when it ended and the colors were retired, the first thing out of my mouth was like, wow, that gives you chills, doesn't it? And the crowd was like dead silent. It was like we all had this shared moment that our little tribe for the day there had this moment of like awe and love for the flag and being moved by the national anthem. I was just like, wow. Like in that moment, I was like, this right here just makes all the work and preparation worth it for this event to go off and to help veterans and to bring these patriots together and then go shoot, right?
Yeah.
My prayer that day, I was like, I don't pray every day and I don't go to church that often, but I grew up going to church. I know how to do it, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a little different this time. I'm going to be thankful for our right to keep and bear arms, the abundance of ammunition and opportunity to practice our marksmanship, right? Steady hands,
Yeah.
quick fingers, whatever. Because it's like, wow, like we get to go out, and not every country, they don't get to go out and even own guns, first of all, but then to be able to go out in a beautiful environment and ride around the golf course and get out and shoot clays. And have camaraderie with your buddies and
America, baby.
yeah, and raise money for great causes.
Yeah.
So Warrior Benefit's a really great organization, and I'm blessed and honored to be able to help with that.
That's amazing. I know William had the opportunity to go out there with you guys,
did.
and he enjoyed himself.
I'm so sorry, by the way. You were like, I saw your social media post after the fact, and I was like, man, he was like right there. He was like paparazzi. He was following me around, like trying to get. But when you're coordinating an event like that, it's like there was not a moment of somebody wasn't. I wasn't having to talk or coordinate or something. I would have loved to have visited with you, and I saw you from stage, but I didn't realize like you were trying to get my attention. I was
sound good.
I was like. Pulled in a million directions.
You're right. Like I said, I spent some time with nonprofits. I understand exactly what
know
it's
what I
like. You're
mean?
just like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on right now. And it was a great event. It was a fantastic turnout. Seen a lot of our folks there that we've seen and had on the show too. So we just do our part to let folks know that there's more ways to get involved. Like you said earlier, if you're in that dark place, there's organizations that want to help. There's over 200 within the Houston area alone that have veteran services. They're looking for veterans to serve, so let them serve you. But through that as well, when I found that organization, it gave me a new why. It gave me new light. It allowed me to be more of who I am and share my strengths with them. And it led me to all of this.
That's why the concept that Rod Long, who's a friend and mentor and a Marine veteran, he founded the Warrior Benefit, and with friends and other Marine veterans, they started it and built it up. And his concept was to have, combat wounded veterans decide where the money goes, not only for the stakeholders and the sponsors and donors to have a good feeling about that the money's going to good places, but to give the veterans something outside of themselves, some meaning and purpose, right? Excuse me. And that's been it's been effective, and it's been a blessing for all of us on the council to be able to be involved in that decision-making process. And so if somebody wants to get involved, I did want to say that there are a couple of spots on the council for Purple Heart veterans if they're interested and looking for something a way to give back. There's also some volunteer positions available for anybody, a Patriot veteran who might want to get involved and come to the shoot. And most of the jobs at the shoot, you can also participate, not just volunteer. There's a few that can't shoot, but and then we're growing, so we had 45 teams. No, I think we had 50 teams. But we would like to grow it to 80 over time.
Yeah.
And it's a fun
cool.
time. So
What? How would they do that? How do they get in touch with you guys?
So they can reach out to us at Shaw Real Estate. So my email is j@shawrealestate.com, JAY. But the Warrior Benefit has a page, which is warriorbenefit.org, and that has all the information on the shoot, pictures. In fact, we should be, if they're not already posted, anytime now the pictures from this last shoot will be posted. And so that's the website is warriorbenefit.org. And through that, they can reach out to us. They can register and see all the details. Mm-hmm. There's social media as well.
So if somebody wanted to donate, that's where they would go also, just to donate to the...
That's a great point. There is a donate button on there. We haven't really pushed that out because we've been focused on this fundraising event, but we would like to have support throughout the year. So if anybody isn't into shooting or isn't available to come to the shoot but wants to donate, they can certainly go on there and push that button, and it's a PayPal link, and it's easy.
Man, there you go. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the work that you guys do. I've been to the event; it's phenomenal. Everybody looked like they had a good time. You won't be disappointed. So if you guys can get involved, please do. This is a very worthwhile organization that makes sure they're good stewards of everything that they do. I mean, volunteering to do more, right? More with what we can. So I want to make sure and acknowledge you and say thanks for really being here, Jay. This has been phenomenal. Hitting on real estate, hitting on the Marine Corps Live, the resiliency, and I can see who you are show up in all your endeavors. So it's really great to have someone like that leading the way. So my final question to you for today would be, Charlie Mike means continue mission. What does that term Charlie Mike mean to you?
Yeah, best way I could describe is when I was doing a lot of mountaineering, my buddy and I, we realized that there was a phenomenon when we would prep and be on the climb. You're very focused on that journey and the technicalities of it and the hardships of it, and then you get to the top and there's this elation of success, but it's pretty fleeting. You spend, especially on big mountains, you can't spend that much time at the top because you got a long way down and weather could come in and afternoon storms are very dangerous. So you have this brief fleeting moment of, we made it. And then the trip down, and you go down into this valley, metaphorically and literally. And so what we figured out is kind of accidentally on our way down, where we would chit chat and we would be talking about the next mountain we're going to climb. So I remembered that afterwards, and this metaphor works. It's like when I hit a success or when I hit a high, I pretty quickly should pick the next mountain, the next peak, because if I wait too long and I get down in that valley, it's so easy to stay down there, right? Gravity, life, things come up, laziness, I'll do it later, but it's like, when you're still feeling good and you're feeling capable, and this works in sales too. It's like when you get off a successful sales call, best thing to do is make another one right away because you feel good.
Right.
So right after the elation of success starts to fade, but before you're in the valley, figure out where you're going to Charlie Mike to next.
Man.
Heck yeah, man.
They get better and better. Man, hey, definitely, Jay, we want to say, man, appreciate it. Thank you for coming on the show. We really enjoyed it, and great conversation.
Absolutely.
Man, I got nothing else. If you guys out there just find a way to get involved, there's so much that we can do. Remember who you are. As a veteran, go back to that military service and get involved. Get involved. There's more ways than one.
I would say, I started as an investor. So if veterans are interested in not just buying or selling real estate, but investing in real estate, it's a great way to build wealth. It's a great way to catch up if you haven't built wealth. And that's something that I try to give back to the community, as well as like talking to veterans about how they can get into the game on real estate and just financial matters.
So if somebody had more questions, they'd reach out to you. How?
Yeah. So my phone number, direct phone number is 281-546-9237. And again, my email is j@shawrealestate.com. And then our office is in Pearland on Broadway at 3272 East Broadway Street in Pearland, 77581. And, of course, we have a website, shawrealestate.com.
Yeah, if you're in the local Pearland area, y'all be sure to swing by Jay's building. They got a bunch of different businesses in there. It's not just yours. Y'all have
It's a co-working hub. So we have over a dozen other businesses that office with us. We also have an art gallery. It's open to the public, so come on in anytime. We love when veterans or anybody stops in, but particularly veterans. I'll talk story and have some coffee or something.
That's how we got on the show.
Yeah, that is, man.
That's right.
So again, man, we appreciate everything that you continue to do for the community, our veteran brothers and sisters, and thank you for being
Thank you,
an
guys.
inspiration, man.
I'm inspired. This studio is awesome. Y'all should come and look them up and come in here and do a podcast. It's a great concept.
You heard him, Charlie Mike, the podcast, or Pearland Podcast Studio right here in Pearland, just south of Houston. Are we south?
Yeah, we're south.
South of Houston.
Is he a lieutenant?
No.
Hey, you guys be sure to follow us on all our social medias. And thank you, as always, Charlie Mike.